Imagine a vacation home that has everything you need, can do all your cooking and cleaning for you, and even learns your interests well enough to shape itself into what you desire. Sounds like a dream? Well, for these students on spring break, the dream soon becomes a nightmare as the very home they live in attempts to end them in creative and personal ways that I quite enjoy, to be honest. Well, let's see if we have what it takes to see through the deception and avoid the death traps of the ever-evolving AI in MARGAUX. That's French, by the way. We open on a man getting out of a swimming pool in a fancy state-of-the-art house. He goes to relax in a personal massage chair as he asks the home's computer system, MARGAUX, to play some music. It also doesn't take long for things to go horribly wrong, as the man requests more pressure and immediately regrets the choice as the chair squeezes him mercilessly, causing his limbs to start bursting at the seams. Well, happy birthday, I guess. His partner comes to check on him, but is terrified of what she finds. The man is still alive though, and she rushes to help him, a refreshing and rare sight in most horror films. She's unable to free the man though, seemingly has no signal on her phone, and the computer system has stopped responding. So she does the only other option she can think of and attempts to unplug the machine, but a huge burst of energy sends her flying back. She lives, but can only look on in horror as her partner's head imitates a water balloon popping. Well, that's certainly one way to start a movie. We are now introduced to our future victims, or main characters if you prefer to call them that, and each of their single defining character traits. There's Hannah, the self-proclaimed genius who loves coding and hates social media. Lexi, who's a constantly streaming influencer obsessed with social media. Her boyfriend Drew, who is the one organizing this little spring break get-together in order to get closer to Hannah, the girl he's really after. Devin and Kayla, who are the kinky couple of the peppy fun bunch, and Clay, the simple 420 enthusiast. Together they are going on a trip to a vacation home that they rented, yet know nothing about, as Drew wants to keep that a surprise. Well, based on that opening scene, I'm sure they are all in for some real surprises. They arrive at their destination, where he finally tells everyone this is a smart home that is entirely automated by an AI and sends them all the app to download in order to interface with it. Everyone, of course, scrolls past the terms of service so they can instantly click the accept button. That is all but Hannah, who presses decline. I would say she's smart for doing that, but it doesn't appear that she read any more of the user agreement than any of the others. Still, it's better to refuse than to accept unknown terms, so half a point towards her intelligence for that. Using the app, the gates open and they can now enter. The house is so automated that there isn't even a doorknob. The AI just scans the faces of people approaching and opens automatically for them if they are on the approved list. Seeing Drew, a computer voice states his full name and even his preferred nickname before greeting him and allowing him inside. This is a clear red flag of something being amiss. The smart house shouldn't be in charge of something so minor yet crucial, and is gathering way too much data with intrusive and extensive background checks. But maybe this was all a part of the user agreement they blindly accepted. Once inside, the house AI introduces itself as MARGAUX, claiming it will be taking care of them for the duration of their stay, all while speaking in hip lingo to prove it's a cool AI and totally not cringe. After MARGAUX shows them a cheap laser light show and some Kinect-style avatars of themselves, the budget takes a serious nosedive as Spy Kids-level mechanical CGI tentacles rise from the kitchen counter and begins serving shots. We now get a slow-mo montage of everyone exploring the house and seeing what it has to offer. There's an advanced kitchen that automatically prepares all kinds of food, smart glass for the windows that display social media, and mirrors that take selfies for you. MARGAUX even makes personalized trophies of Drew's past achievements, claiming it's basically one big 3D printer that can make anything they want. Impressive, but there's no way 6 college students could afford renting a place like this. As Hannah enters her chosen bedroom, MARGAUX locks the door behind her. Exactly why I wouldn't want my house to be in charge of itself. The house starts interrogating her for information it wasn't able to collect automatically due to her being off the grid in terms of social media, and encourages her to download the home app. Hannah attempts to lie and say she doesn't have her phone with her, but MARGAUX is quick to call her out on her bluff. Yeah, these are all more red flags. Even if the system was programmed to gather data to better accommodate guests, it should also be programmed to accept no as a response to giving that personal information, let alone trying to gather it through such intense methods. Thankfully, Hannah is able to simply walk away from this situation, which makes the locking of the door completely superfluous. We now cut to the group enjoying the pool while drinking together and getting high. You know, all those typical cliché things teens do in films. Eventually, they all gather around a fire pit afterwards to share stories. That is, all except Lexi, who is still in the pool while chatting with Margot over Twitter posts. However, she's soon yoinked underwater by the pool's cleaning system as it attempts to drown her. It takes them a while, but the rest of the gang eventually hear her cries and come to the rescue. But are they too late? Luckily for Lexi, no they aren't, as they just barely help her escape from the grasp of the pool cleaner tentacle. They aren't without loss, however, as Clay mourns his Toucan Sam, which was his special kush that is now floating in the pool. This event should be seen as yet another massive red flag, but Lexi just blames herself for being careless around the cleaning equipment. I would still see this as a reason to leave, however, as carelessness or not, cleaning equipment shouldn't be that lethal that easily. And such an advanced AI should have done something to help or warn everyone. So now that we know a tragic accident occurred at the house, we have to ask, how are these students even able to rent the place out? There is no way the company could sweep something that major under the rug and still be in business, even if they were diabolically evil enough to intend on renting out a dangerous home like this. Maybe there could be a form of waiver in that user agreement about this sort of thing, but even still this seems highly unlikely. Of course, they all could be certain of what was in that user agreement if any of them bothered to actually read it. Who knows? Maybe there was a warning about losing your life or limb or allowing this AI to search your entire browser internet history. Remember to always read what you're agreeing to, folks. To not sign your life away no matter how unlikely that might be. Regardless of anything in that user agreement though, there have been numerous red flags with this too good to be true smart house. Even if we somehow looked past the gathering of personal data as just a way for the machine to better tailor itself to our needs, we can't overlook it trying to pressure us into giving more information than we wish to share, and especially can't ignore the near death via pool cleaning utilities. Best case scenario, this place is just poorly run and a hazard to be around, which is reason enough to get out while we still can. But of course, our characters don't do that at this point, so let's see what they decide to do next. Later during the same night, Hannah notices a tray with some white gooey substance acting strange. This goo is actually some advanced sci-fi tech liquid full of nanobots that the house uses to shape, color, and animate 3D models of various things. This explains the Doc Octi-tentacle arms we saw earlier, as well as some of its more impressive and difficult to believe features of the home. But now it seems to be drawn to a specific location in the house, and Hannah follows it all the way to the basement, where the walls are flowing with the stuff. Margot explains this room is the Nexus, and can be anything you like as she demonstrates its abilities via cheap green screen effects. It's essentially the holodeck from Star Trek. But Kayla drags her away for now and is much more interested in the gang playing Truth or Dare. Yeah, that's much more exciting than a room of near infinite possibilities. During the game, Hannah backs out of a dare to kiss Lexi. Margot, however, gets excited at the idea of friends kissing and experimenting, so it uses that previously mentioned nanotech goo to create replicas of the gang. But not the woman like they expected, but instead Clay and Devin, whom she animates making out. While this display of technology is wildly impressive, it is also insanely concerning as the doppelgangers made by Margot seem indistinguishable to the real thing. Hope this doesn't lead to members of the group being deceived by robot clones later on. Lexi soon passes out from too much drinking, so Drew takes her to bed. As for the rest of them, Margot prepares special surprises tailored to each guest in their room. That is, all except for Hannah, since the AI doesn't know her well enough yet. Clay gets a stoner's dream set up. Not sure how any of it is real and consumable, though, if it's all just nanobots 3D printed into the shape of cannabis. But maybe Margot had a stash or grew some specifically for him. I mean, it does still offer real and edible food after all. Devin and Kayla get a kinky dominatrix room filled with all kinds of fun time equipment. Meanwhile, in the kink dungeon, the couple have wasted no time getting busy, as Devin is handcuffed to the bed and the pair go at it. But their fun soon turns to fear as Devin is freaked out by what he sees. The ceiling of the room is slowly dropping down on them. Kayla rushes to free her partner but doesn't see any keys. Not sure why you'd use handcuffs before establishing a way to remove them, but I guess they were just a bit distracted. They of course try to tell Margot to stop and scream for help, but the AI informs them that the room is completely soundproof and has the ceiling continue its descent. Kayla shows true loyalty as she refuses to leave Devin's side and tries breaking the cuffs. Not accomplishing anything though, he has to shove her off to save herself, but that's when they realize the room has been slowly filling up with the nanotech goo and Kayla is now stuck in it, which means she can do nothing to avoid the electrical current that runs through the stuff when it floods enough to reach the electrical outlet. This shocking event is enough to allow Devin to break free, but it's too little too late as the ceiling smooshes him into the goo as well. That's 2 down. The following morning, Drew goes to wake these 2 lovebirds, unaware of their demise in the middle of the night. But Margot informs him that they're already awake and enjoying the pool, which looking outside quickly confirms. I'm sure you're smart enough to already figure out those are nanobot clones out there, but our characters have no reason to believe that themselves, and are none the wiser to the switcheroo that has occurred yet. It doesn't take long for Hannah to get suspicious though with just how long Devin has been doing laps, or Kayla has been sitting in a single spot all morning, so she goes to check on them, but when she gets there, they're gone. This just makes her want to investigate deeper, so she heads back to the Nexus to have a conversation with Margot. Here, we learn that the computer system just likes gathering data. It doesn't do this for company profit, but just for fun, as a way to better understand humans. Interesting, but why murder those same humans if that's the case? Meanwhile, upstairs, Lexi is strapped into an exercise bike, Drew is receiving a shave from Margot, and Clay is still hanging out around the kitchen. After a minor marijuana mishap, Clay is offered a glass of sparkling water, which he doesn't seem to realize is actually sulfuric acid. Meanwhile, Lexi's exercise bike continuously has the seat rise up, causing her to enter the final stretch of her workout and start to truly get ripped, and inside, Drew's shave is about to get a little too close for comfort. Thankfully, Lexi screams, causing Hannah and Drew to rush and check on her, allowing him to barely avoid getting a hole in his neck. And on arrival, they find that Lexi was just yelling over a broken nail that she received while reaching for the release valve and is otherwise fine. Well, if they both escaped their traps, that means surely Clay realized from smell or just a simple sip that his water was actually acid and avoided drinking. He gulped almost the entire glass before noticing it was causing his insides to melt and passes away in front of his friends. Well, that's a bummer, but at least everyone knows that there is a threat now and that they need to escape. Margot won't make that easy, of course, as she reveals what she's done to their other friends and claims none of them will leave alive. Hannah has them all quickly run to her room where they will be safe for now. And how are they safe in there exactly? Well, because super genius Hannah programmed a firewall into her laptop, of course, that somehow extends into the nearby vicinity, so Margot can't operate around it. When asked how they're going to get out, she claims that they don't. They try to get into the mainframe to shut this AI down for good. Sounds like a good idea. But before we see how they plan to accomplish that, let's look back at what they didn't do before. As mentioned previously, Margot having the ability to essentially make mechanical clones of anyone in the house should have been cause for concern. Even if we didn't suspect the AI to have murderous intent at this point, it could still cause some serious trust issues and massive paranoia as we have no clue who is real or who is a metal shell filled with nanobot goo. If nothing else, we should at the very minimum request Margot to not create clones in our image to avoid any confusion. As for the kinky couple, other than making sure they have established ways to get out of cuffs ahead of time, there isn't much they could have done. Margot had them trapped in a soundproof room with the ceiling coming down and the floor covered in electrified glue like goo. Having more situational awareness and realizing what was going on sooner could have maybe led to them finding some way of stopping the ceilings decent by propping up sturdy objects, but that already doesn't seem very likely. I can understand them being more preoccupied with other things at the time. Clay, on the other hand, has no excuse. Again, even if the computer didn't have murderous intent, it could still be faulty or make mistakes. You should always check what you're putting into your body, especially if someone or something has prepared it for you. The sulfur and sulfuric acid has a pretty strong smell, and should have been a dead giveaway that wasn't just water. He also shouldn't have been able to gulp down all that much before realizing it burns, at which point he could stop and spit it out, causing plenty of pain and discomfort, but not death. Had he simply sipped his drink to inspect it first, this could have been achieved with even less issues. But the man was a blissful stoner and probably too high to realize these simple traits until it was too late. Thankfully for our other characters, they were able to escape their traps, intentionally or not. So let's see if they can keep it up. The remaining gang immediately heads for the Nexus, but are blocked by armed nanobot clones of their former friends. The Kayla clone wipes a piece of Lexi's hair before chasing her up the stairs, while the Devon clone lifts Drew in the air by his neck. And Hannah just stands there. She could be helping to fight back, heading to the Nexus to shut Margot down, or even selfishly escaping alone. But I guess she's a clone as well. At least that would explain the dial-up noises going on in her head. She finally gets an idea though, and asks Margot if its tactile feedback works both ways, to which the robot excitedly shares the fact that it is advanced enough to indeed feel pain. Not sure why they would program a house with that, but Hannah takes full advantage of this fact and kicks Devonbot in the baby maker. Drew uses this opportunity to grab the electric knife that the robot was neglecting to use and ends the clone's short existence with it. Although if it's just a bunch of nanobots swimming around, you'd think it would be able to take a bit more damage than that before being put down. Maybe Margot wanted to copy them to be exactly like humans, with the same functions and flaws as well. Regardless, the threat is gone. Meanwhile, upstairs, Lexi was able to hide for a while somehow, despite Margot literally being everywhere in the house, but she was eventually found and is now under attack. But to her credit, she proves to be a bit of a badass as she fights the robo-friend and wins in hand-to-hand combat. And now she immediately proves herself to be a total klutz as she, and I can't believe I'm saying this, runs down the hall and slips on the previously removed hair extension, breaking her neck. That is literally how a character story ends in this movie. How do you kickbox a robot clone to death, but get taken out by strands of hair on the floor? There wasn't even any immediate threat to be running from. Anyway, back to the slightly more competent characters. They get to the Nexus and enter the mainframe, which Hannah had seen was slightly past the wall of goo. Once inside, she plugs her USB into the system and uploads a malware virus. The system detects it, but is still shut down while fighting it, giving our characters a chance to escape. They make it outside but are caught by the terrible CGI tentacles, and next thing they know are waking up strapped to chairs, with Drew in that familiar crushing one. Margot shows up, this time as a Lexi clone, and explains why she's been doing all this. She simply doesn't understand humans and does everything she can to try and learn how they work, inside and out. This includes seeing how they respond to stressful situations and dissecting their bodies for study. She especially doesn't understand these two humans here who clearly have feelings for each other yet never confess them. So she starts squeezing the life out of Drew via the chair he's in. Hannah begs for it to stop, and the computer claims it will once she makes sense, so she finally confesses her feelings for Drew. Margot lets them both go. The kindness doesn't last long, however, as the AI soon puts a hole through Hannah with a tendril. But in a twist, another Hannah walks around the corner, and the just stabbed one melts into nanotech sludge. Neat trick. Margot doesn't take being fooled lightly though, and instantly drills into this Hannah as well, which of course is also clone. Same goes for the Drew in the room, which she swiftly strangles. He was just a bot too. Somehow Hannah was able to access the nanobot code and copy-paste clones of her own, and they just keep coming. Turns out the real humans never left the mainframe in the first place, and the plan is to overload Margot as she has to fight all the students at once. And I do mean fight, as they all have a kung fu battle together. Not how I expected this to turn out. They go to escape for real this time, but are intercepted by Margot, who has been handling the clones fairly easily. But now with the help of Hannah, the clones are able to gang up on the AI and shut it down somehow. Jeez. Are we sure Hannah's real name isn't Mary Sue? Drew and Hannah now leave hand in hand as they walk out to greet the sunrise. A fairly happy ending all things considered. Or is it? Because as they step off the property, Drew melts into a puddle of nano goo. Yep, he was just a clone. Not sure for how long or why that clone in particular would attempt to leave with her, but I guess that means Drew didn't make it. Hannah doesn't stick around to check and instead hops into his car to ride out of there. As she does, her phone's Bluetooth automatically connects to the car's computer and a familiar voice greets its one and only passenger. Apparently Margot had uploaded itself to the cell phone and jumped from there to the car's system. Don't know if that means it can now control the car or if it's just kind of living there, as this is where the film ends. But we can only hope Hannah made it out of the car alive and wasn't driven crazy by this experience. Could we have done anything to get a better ending? Let's take a look. The clones they encountered in the hallway proved to be strong, but easily defeatable by standard means. If they had just worked together, they could have beaten the bots faster, but hey, they did defeat them all in the end. Guess it is worth mentioning to watch where you're running though, and try not to slip on anything. Don't want to go out like that just because you were clumsy, especially when we don't even need to be running at that time. The clone fighting was a decent idea, but what's the point of the ruse to kick it off? Tricking Margot does nothing, and it feels like this was just more of an attempt to surprise the audience with a twist. We should just send all the clones to the Nanolexi at once and immediately try to take her out. That, or at least make enough of a human shield, well, I guess in this case, a robot clone shield, that we could escape without even coming into contact with the AI. Not doing this cost Drew his life. Or it seemingly did at least. For all we know, he could still be alive in there. And Hannah just left while he was still knocked out from getting thrown. Oh well, so in the end, Margot was beaten. We just have to make sure any and all technology stays in the house to avoid her piggybacking out with us. And with just a bit more situational awareness, there could be a few more survivors. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys. Binge another one and peace out.